Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back again to kind of talk about what's going on with my guild and my new guild. If you have not heard the news yet, I just joined Vision on Kel'Thuzad, and it's actually on Alliance, which is something that may come to a surprise for some of you who know how much I detest gnomes and maybe just playing Alliance in general. But it was something that it kind of been gnawing at me for a while of maybe taking the offer when I had received it, and also kind of what I wanted to do with the guild that I was in at the time, and which was Incarnate, and it definitely made me ponder, and it definitely was something that was not an easy decision, like it had been in the past. So previous guilds for me, they seem more simple positions where it was something where we definitely were not progressing enough, so I'm gonna go progress higher, and oh, the raid leader is a total asshole, I'm gonna go somewhere where the people are not toxic and not horrible, oh, okay, the leadership doesn't care about progression anymore, and they just want all the founding members to have, raid spots, and then that's it. So it was something where it was not any of those things. It was not any of those things, and it was just kind of a number of little things that kind of compounded on top of each other. And I kind of wanted to just, get my thoughts out there and get my my thought process out there for those of you who, who are wondering and stuff like that. So, of course, I'd gotten the offer a while ago. In fact, it kind of seemed more like an open offer for a long time. But I mean, I knew their holy pally, Zach, Zatchery Gaming. He's a streamer as well. If you want to check him out, link is going to be in the description below. But I'd known him for most of Nighthold progression because again, our guilds were pretty much neck and neck. And he kind of brought up Vision to me a couple times because they really were kind of lacking in stability for their raid group, and stability specifically for their healers. Everything else kind of was flowing and was working on all gears ahead, and it was something where they just kind of were lacking on the healers, and they were never able to kind of solidify the roster for that one, and that kind of always piqued my interest. But it was also something kind of similar where I found that there was something with my raid group that I kind of was missing, and that I had in other expansions, and I had in other tiers where it made up for some of the bad things. And I think one of the first things that kind of came to my mind is that I never really had a partner in this expansion so far. And then it's something where sure, you have your heal team, you're supposed to be working as a team, but for me and like my career as a healer, I've kind of always had at least one, maybe two people who are kind of like really, really close with me, and that I'm also healing with it around the same time. And that was something I really haven't had that much of in Legion at all. I mean, in previous expansions, I had G the Bell, who's now in Limit, who's Holy Pally for them. He's amazing. And I had like Eiffel, who's now retired Disc Priest and stuff like that. And those were people in those guilds that I was in that moment of time that I was able to lean on. We were able to bitch to each other, maybe bitch about each other to each other, and something like that where it worked really well, and it was something that we always could kind of work together, and we kind of knew where we were going. And I don't think I really have had that synergy with anybody else that I've healed with in a long time. And maybe it sounds as very, very cheesy as it does sound, I do feel confident about that kind of synergy with Zach, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to our first raid. So that is one thing. That's definitely one big part of it, because you want to make sure that the healers that you're healing with are not strangers to you, and you want to make sure that you do have that strong synergy, especially as logs are such a big deal these days, and they're so compounded on, they're so focused on. To find people that you can just lean on, and it's something that they're more than just your team, they're more family or something like that, especially if you're spending 16-20 hours a week raiding with them, right? From there, it kind of made me look at I kind of looked at the leadership of the raid groups and how each raid group kind of handles themselves. So for one, Vision runs a very tight roster, and that was something that immediately appealed to me, coming from Incarnate, where there's a very bloated roster, and I really did not enjoy having 7 healers on the roster when I was in Incarnate, and knowing that nobody gets cut, it's people kind of get phased out and shown the door, and that's how they want to run it, and that's how many guilds have run their stuff in the past, and that's understandable. But it was something that I wasn't exactly a big fan of, because then it kind of translates into these people have knowledge that they're probably not going to be brought along, and then they're just going to be getting their kills later on down the line. And when you're looking at the motivation for why should you be researching your fights, why should you be practicing and stuff like that, well, there's always the you should, but when there's no expectation of being brought along for difficult content and stuff like that. I think it's evidenced by some of our failures on getting one night clears faster and faster once we had killed Gul'dan. Of being able to get into that farm mode and the length that it has taken us to for Incarnate to actually get to that point was really, really painful. And that was something that, you know, kind of bothered me, especially when, you know, it's a guild that is 5 days a week and runs split runs, and we haven't started split mythics yet. But then I look at the 4-day guild in Vision that is already one night clearing each split mythic group that they're running with. So to me, that really stood out, and that, you know, really raised a lot of questions to me. Because while it's very advantageous to, you know, advertise, we're raiding 5 days, we're doing this, these are set raid hours, but also making the most out of it. And I think that's one thing that kind of stood out to me, is not only just overhealing fights and, you know, people not trusting the healers to save their lives and things like that, but it was also something where we kind of got to many points, especially on Gul'dan progression, where we kind of just burned time, and that didn't really sit well with me when I was raiding in Incarnate. And I even, you know, raised my concerns, I raised my complaints and stuff like that to the officers, and to their credit, they listened. But, you know, it's up to them to follow through, and in many cases, they did things that I just didn't agree with on how it was run. So, of course, I'm not the officer, I'm not trying to be in charge of things, but if I have the option to, I definitely want to be looking for something that has what I want, right? So, when we were talking about what specifically, I mean, it was something like, you know, doing heroic Gul'dan sales and heroic Night Old sales when we're on Gul'dan progression, and taking up raid time to do fluffy stuff that we're not, you know, Incarnate's not even doing sales right now, so we're in the middle of farm and we're not doing sales, but we did them during Gul'dan progression. You know, going back to TOV for the potential of maybe something, even though we're considerably more geared than other guilds, these like 5 or 6 other guilds that had already killed it, you know. So something like that, where, or if we didn't have the perfect comp, you know, it didn't matter about getting everybody else experience on pulls, getting other people who are already failing at the moment with mechanics, getting them experience. It was just about, oh, okay, well, maybe we're just going to get more gear, and then we'll be able to muscle through it, and then we'll all be able to learn together. You know, so a number of those things where, you know, especially if you're only bringing a set 20 people, and then you're waiting on a flake, or you're waiting on somebody who's late, or, you know, whatever's happening, you know, then the other people who are on the bench are not researching fights, and that was also evident when we started trying to bring other people in to get their kills. So a lot of that stuff kind of compounded onto itself, and while other guilds had offered and made offers in the past, and I, you know, turned them down and I wasn't interested, this is something where, you know, it really stood out to me. And it really stood out to me of saying, you know, this, while I really am not a huge fan of the aesthetics, and I really don't want to lose maybe a connection to all the friends outside of my guild that I've made on Horde side. It is something that it made me stop, and it made me think about what I really, really want, and not just being complacent and being, you know, content, but, you know, feeling challenged, feeling needed, you know, desired in a raid group. And I'm sure it sounds kind of cheesy, but, you know, you want to have that feeling that you're wanted there. You know, if you are getting the impression, if you're getting bad feelings out of a raid group on a consistent basis, you know, everyone's going to have shitty nights. But if you're getting, you know, kind of a bad feeling of why am I raiding here, it really makes you kind of question it. It really makes you, for me, you know, maybe enjoy streaming a little bit less. And it kind of was something where, you know, instead of me having fun and me engaging with my guild as I streamed, it was something where you kind of got vilified for it, and people were like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna scream the N-word over Discord and other shit like that, that I was like, well, now I'm just gonna mute people, and I'm just gonna mute, you know, a number of people, because then, you know, I still want to stream raid comms, and I think that's beneficial to many people watching, but, you know, it does make you kind of question it. You know, compare that to, you know, I just finished up my first night with Vision today, and, you know, they brought me along for like 19, 20, you know, Mythic Plus pushes on Tyrannical. It was awesome. It was challenging. It was tough. It was painful. But they were engaged. They were interested. And I think that's something, you know, you don't always find everywhere. Clearly. So, I'm having fun so far. I'm really looking forward to my first raid. It's going to be on Wednesday. Our raid schedule is going to be Monday through Thursday, 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can always check out my stream or Zach's stream. Of course, we'll both be streaming, pending us being brought in, of course, which I don't doubt at all. But thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hearing me out, guys, about just, some of my thoughts on, staying in a raid group, leaving a raid group, things like that. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you all found it informative, interesting, whatever. All right. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you all next time.